Okay, so ready to dive deep into the mind of Robert Greene?
Let's do it.
We're breaking down his incredible interview with Jay Shetty, and get ready for some serious aha moments. Greene does not hold back.
What really struck me was how Greene flips the script on negativity. Like, what if we're the ones attracting negative people into our lives?
It's like we're unknowingly sending out a signal, hey, drama, come on in.
Yeah, Greene talks about this emptiness we feel, and it can be like a beacon for, well, let's just say, less than ideal personalities. Like they sense a void and swoop right in.
It's the moth to a flame, but instead of a one-time thing, it becomes this pattern of seeking validation from all the wrong places.
It can be a tough cycle to break.
And what I found really relatable was when Greene admitted to, falling into that trap himself.
Oh, absolutely. It just goes to show, even those who study human nature, they're not immune.
That exactly.
But, and this is key, he offers some really practical tools for breaking free. He talks about strong character versus weak character as a way to identify those energy zappers.
Think of it like your personal BS detector.
Yes.
You can navigate relationships with so much more awareness.
Totally. And he doesn't just point fingers outward. He challenges us to turn that lens inward, recognize any weak character tendencies we might have ourselves.
Right, because self-awareness is a lifelong journey, right? Not a destination. And speaking of journeys, Greene connects this idea of emptiness to his own meditation practice.
Yeah, he doesn't see it as inherently negative. In fact,
It's like a starting point, like a blank canvas.
exactly, a state of potential. He even brings in Buddhist principles of egolessness. Like imagine the self not as this fixed thing, but as something that's constantly evolving.
It's almost like hitting the reset button on how we define ourselves and everything we experience. And, speaking of resets, Greene's stroke, it was obviously life-altering. But what surprised me was how it opened his eyes to the inherent goodness in people.
It's a powerful reminder that even the most challenging experiences can lead to unexpected insights. And this ties into his emphasis on empathy, which he believes is unfortunately lacking in today's world.
It's easy to get stuck in our bubbles, especially for social media, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Greene suggests actively seeking out different perspectives to combat that. It's all about expanding your horizons, both intellectually and just, in life.
He's all about embracing those different viewpoints, challenging our own assumptions. And, it's not just what we consume, but who we surround ourselves with.
And the experiences that we choose, right? Which actually leads us to this really interesting part of the interview where Greene and Shetty kind of geek out over their shared love of ancient texts.
There's a reason why certain wisdom stands the test of time, right? Greene talks about how even those texts from centuries ago, like those 11th century Zen writings, they still hold incredible insights for navigating our lives today.
It's like they tapped into something universal about the human experience.
Exactly.
And it's not just the words themselves, it's the whole package. Greene is fascinated by these ancient cultures. Their music, the smells, the rituals, the whole sensory experience.
He believes those experiences can connect us to something much larger than ourselves. He even mentions listening to recreated Greek music just to immerse himself in that world.
It's like sonic time travel, right?
Hmm.
And it reminded me of this experience I had on a trip. I noticed these incredible parallels between Hawaiian, Indian, and Bhutanese cultures.
Yeah.
Like, on the surface, totally different, but at their core, this beautiful universality.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it actually connects to what Greene was saying about language, how it can be limiting. We get so caught up in the words themselves that we miss those deeper connections.
And so they say, right, the map is not the territory. We need to actually experience the world, not just read about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Greene walks the walk, like he's constantly learning new languages, immersing himself in different cultures, challenging his own views.
He talks about his trip to Bhutan, describing it as a time capsule, and it made him question this whole idea of cultural homogenization. How you go to different countries and it's the same chain stores, the same restaurants. Remember that time we were in India and we stumbled upon a Tim Hortons?
Right next to a Starbucks. It's like this generic culture, as Greene calls it, that kind of dulls the senses.
Yeah, it's like we're sanitizing our experiences, so how do we break free? Well, thankfully, Shetty asks him that.
And Greene's answer surprised me. Instead of going straight to, meditation or mindfulness, he emphasizes the power of our senses.
He's all about getting out of those routines, embracing those rich experiences that are all around us. And one of his favorites, music.
Especially music from different cultures, different time periods. He even mentioned this project where they're recreating music from ancient civilizations. Can you imagine experiencing the sounds of ancient Greece.
It'd be like stepping back in time. And Greene believes that by exposing ourselves to these different rhythms and melodies, it actually expands our consciousness.
It's like a workout for your brain.
Totally.
But it's not just music. He also talks about exploring different flavors, textures, even scents.
Remember that amazing meal we had in Thailand?
Oh, tell me about it.
Those flavors were incredible.
It's about actively seeking out those experiences that awaken those senses, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of challenges, Greene also talks about the importance of pushing our intellectual boundaries.
He's a voracious reader, especially drawn to ancient texts. He's fascinated by that timeless wisdom.
He shared how reading 11th century Zen writings, they still resonate with him today.
It's amazing how those ancient thinkers viewed the world.
And it makes you wonder, like, has our modern language, especially in this age of social media, has it hindered our ability to connect on that deeper level?
It's a really interesting thought. And you know what's so inspiring about Greene is that he actually embodies this whole idea of continuous learning, this pursuit of knowledge and experience.
He talks about this need to constantly challenge himself, to never settle for the easy route.
He's always pushing himself to learn, to grow, to step outside of that comfort zone.
And it's that willingness, that's where the magic happens, right? The creative breakthroughs, the personal growth, all of it.
Absolutely. It's about embracing the unknown. And that leads us to Greene's creative process, which, let me tell you, is a fascinating journey in itself.
One of the biggest things he talks about is this pressure to, like, repeat himself. You know, after the success of the 48 Laws of Power, it would have been easy to just keep churning out similar books.
Right. He could have just taken the easy route, but
But he talks about how unfulfilling that would have been. Like, he's driven by this need to create something real, something challenging, something that comes from a deeper place.
he talks about hating anything that feels like hollow,
Yeah.
like it's missing that vulnerability. And this is where his creative process gets really interesting. He describes these moments of intense struggle, almost like he's lost in the woods, creatively speaking.
Writer's block, but, like, amplified.
Exactly. Amplified by those past successes.
Uh.
And here's the thing. He doesn't shy away from those moments of discomfort. He's learned to actually embrace the struggle, recognizing that's where his best work comes from. It comes from that uncertainty.
It's like leaning into the messy middle, like trusting that something meaningful will emerge.
Exactly. He even mentions this ancient Greek concept of the daemon, this like inner voice, this second self that can either guide you toward your purpose or lead you totally astray.
Okay, so like the angel and devil on your shoulder, but like deeper.
Exactly. A little more philosophical. And Greene talks about how he's constantly grappling with his own daemon, questioning his motivations, his ideas, everything.
He makes you wonder if he's questioning his own sanity sometimes.
And he doesn't shy away from those darker moments. And it's that willingness to sit with the discomfort, to embrace not knowing, that's where he taps into that deeper level of creativity.
So it's not just about the ideas themselves, it's about the whole process.
The entire journey.
And that level of self-trust, that's got to be what allows him to create work that resonates so deeply, right? Because it's vulnerable, it's honest, and he's not afraid to go there.
Exactly. He asks the tough questions, challenges those assumptions, and really pushes us to think differently.
He's a master storyteller. I mean, the way he weaves together history, philosophy, personal anecdotes, it's just incredible.
And it's always thought-provoking. It's engaging.
Yeah. And through it all, there's this, like, underlying sense of hope, like this belief that we're capable of growth, transformation, self-discovery. It's pretty powerful.
It's not about achieving some perfect version of ourselves. It's about embracing the journey, the flaws, the whole messy, beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And sometimes we just need that reminder, right? To like lighten up a little bit, enjoy the ride. And luckily, Shetty kind of does that. He wraps up the interview with this rapid fire round he calls the final five.
Oh, yeah, I love that part. It's a fun way to get to know Greene on a more personal level.
Exactly. So are you ready for the final five with Robert Greene?
Let's do it.
All right, question 1. What's something you wish you had learned earlier?
I was expecting some profound life lesson, but
Me too.
yeah.
But Greene, he goes in a totally different direction. He says, the piano.
So human, right? It shows that even someone as accomplished as Robert Greene have those what-if moments.
Exactly. We're all human. Okay, question 2 gets a little deeper. What's something you used to be sure about, but now you're less sure about?
This one really makes you think. He says, a sense of right and wrong or good and evil.
Wow. And it just shows how our perspectives evolve as we grow older, as we experience more. Things that we might have once thought were black and white, they become more nuanced. Okay, ready for question 3?
Hit me.
If you could go back and live in any age, where would you go?
Okay, Greene's a history buff, so I was really curious about this one.
Right.
He says he'd go back to the Paleolithic era, like the time of our earliest ancestors,
Wow, so going way, way back.
way back. He's fascinated by the origins of human consciousness.
It's incredible when you think about it, how connected we are to those who came before us.
Absolutely.
Okay, 2 questions left. If you could have 3 people over for dinner, living or dead, who would they be?
That's always such a tough one.
I know, right? So many possibilities. So who's on Greene's guest list?
All right, he chooses philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, the Buddha, and Socrates.
Wow. Okay, now that's a dinner party. Can you imagine the conversations?
It would be like a meeting of the minds for the ages.
Okay, last question. The grand finale. Shetty asks Greene, what is something you're trying to learn right now?
Ooh, good question.
And his answer, it's something I think we can all relate to. He says he's trying to learn to be more forgiving of himself.
It's such a powerful admission. He talks about internalizing this message, never good enough.
It's so easy to fall into that trap, right?
It is. But Greene reminds us that self-compassion, it's a journey. It's not about perfection. It's about recognizing those negative thought patterns and choosing a more compassionate inner voice.
It's something we can all work on. And it's so important, learning to be kinder to ourselves.
Couldn't agree more. It's the most important relationship we'll ever have, right?
Right.
That relationship with ourselves.
It really is. Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
What a conversation, right?
Greene's insights are always so thought-provoking. I always come away with a renewed sense of curiosity, and just a desire to really engage with the world.
He's a true master of his craft. If you haven't already, definitely check out his books.
Absolutely. And Greene leaves us with this question. What if we viewed emptiness not as a lack of something, but as an opportunity for growth and connection? If we resist the urge to fill every void with external validation, what hidden depths might we discover within ourselves?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.